This topic of, the future of football, man, that is about as broad as the future of the universe. So what my colleague and I, we've decided to focus on is an aspect of football, an aspect of sports, welcome, that we find particularly interesting. And that is sports, is football a factor that unites or that divides? There's no shortage of examples on either side. We can think of ample examples of situations where football or sports has been a polarizing factor. But we can also think of some examples where football and sports have united. And what we'd like to focus on is a couple of aspects. The first aspect is, well, who cares? I mean, is this important? Is it important why it unites or divides? I mean, does it matter? So we'd like to address that. The second thing is, can it be a factor either way? I think we know pretty well the answer, that it can be a factor to polarize. But we're trying to figure out and address and stand still with, can it be a factor to bring people together? And then the third question is how? And at that moment I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Winston, because I have raised the questions and he is going to come up with all the answers. So why does it matter? Why do we need a thing that unites? I spared no effort, as you can see, to come up with the fanciest graphs and charts. And this has nothing to do with football. It has to do with talent. And it doesn't matter whether you run a business, whether you fry potatoes, whether you teach, whether you run a football club. In any of these endeavors, you need talent. Now, what does this show? It's a pretty alarming picture. It shows that the labor market, the supply of talent in the EU is declining. Not just marginally, not just a little bit. I think some people far smarter than I have figured out that over the next 50 years, it is declining by 25% in the EU alone. The people between ages 18 and 65 we're not talking about what their skills are, whether they're smart, whether they're talented, whether they can work with their hands, whatever they can. No, just between the ages of 18 and 65, a massive decline of 25%. So, what does that have to do with football? Maybe not. But leave that for a second, okay? So, the working population, the supply of talent is declining. The next thing, again, we spared no time or effort to come up with phenomenal slides and charts. So what does that mean? What is the implication? Well, it means that, as I already said, talent is going to be more scarce. Anything that becomes more scarce is going to be more expensive. Anything that is going to be more expensive, we need in a labor force hands and feet and talent to do the work. So we need to get more people in from abroad. We need to therefore, and we will therefore become more and more and more diverse. And turnover will also increase. Does that matter? Yeah, I think that matters. we are going to have greater differences. We are going to have greater diversity. Okay, so having a uniter, a factor that unites, is probably a good thing to have. Here's a couple of things just on the side. What is important, you know, when you have greater diversity, and Huib will talk about that more. You know, in some places, the leader, the boss, the teacher, the coach, needs to be somebody who is having all the answers. He needs to tell you exactly what you have to do, and when you have to do it, and how you have to do it. Whereas in other cultures, the focus and the task of a leader is to ask you how you think it is best to be done, or what are your special talents in how to do it. And when you have greater diversity, a greater difference in skills, in backgrounds of the people in your workforce, it's pretty cool and it's pretty important to know what kind of a leadership style is going to be working. And then, you know, one other thing, when you look at companies, businesses that have tried to integrate, and they list all of the challenges that they have come up with and that they've faced, addressing cultural integration is the biggest one. So, the question, is it important? Does it matter whether football unites or divides? I think the answer is yes, because we are going to have greater differences, more diversity in every aspect of society, in the EU, but also North America and also other parts, but let's focus on the EU for right now. So we're going to have greater diversity. So a uniting factor is cool. Here's another thing. This is, you know, my contribution to the world of math. And you all know the is, the equal sign, and you also know the plus sign, and the first thing is difference. So, you know, difference is a plus. And what does that have to do with football? What does that have to do with talent? Well, a fairly simple thing. Imagine you have a company, a business, and everybody in the company is an accountant. I hope I'm not insulting any accountants in this room. Imagine.
Are you talking about my father?
No, I have no doubt that he was an exquisite accountant, but I'm talking about a business where everybody's an accountant. Imagine, you know, you have a football team, and everybody is a goalie, or everybody is a forward. So the point here is that different talents, different skill levels work to the benefit of the team. So A, we need it because diversity is increasing, and B, evidence shows that diversity is an added benefit. I will sidestep to business for a second. Because in business, there have been voices that have said, you know what, you need to have a focus on a specific type of talent. You need to recruit from specific schools, and you need to have specific backgrounds and specific skill levels and specific motivations and specific everything. So we're going to clone somebody who has particular talents. And that's who we're going to recruit. And so we're going to populate our business, our company, with same like-minded people. We're going to clone them. And that's been tried. It's been done. One of them, the company that tried it, is Enron. Another company that has tried it is Lehman. And there have been a few other companies that are no longer around. Sameness doesn't work. So, A, diversity is increasing. B, it's a good thing.
But don't you think that social media takes care of the fact that diversity is not increasing but decreasing because everybody reads the same stuff and gets the same products, etc. So I don't think that is what you're saying is true. Is true.
I think that's a great point. Let's hold that for the discussion, but definitely I've made a note of that. Let's definitely come back to that.
So the question is, does media, does social media, does television, does broadcasting, does greater interaction decrease differences? Okay, that's a very good question. And we'd very much like to address it after a while. So here are some examples. This was in the paper this morning. You know, it's Dutch. But it's about, an example of what a judge says about the sport of football and the state of football. And he basically says football is going down the tubes. Football is just one of those things where it is going so far down the tubes where, abuse is tolerated, etc. So there are plenty of examples where sports, where football does the polarizing thing. Okay? But some people involved in football, UEFA, FIFA, they recognize the unifying potential of football. And so they start this campaign, and this campaign has been around for a couple of years. And it is a fantastic campaign. I mean, you've all seen it, with these boys and girls and old people and young people taking off their shirt and giving it to the next person, and then the next person surfaces. It's a fantastic campaign. It's about diversity and it's about respect. And it's great. So they recognize it. Does it work? Not entirely sure, because it depends where this message gets ingrained and how soon you start to develop and instill and influence behavior. And obviously, this behavior has not been influenced soon enough. But the question that I had as the third one, or now as the second one, before I turn it over to Hype, who's going to tell you and give you all the answers, can it be a uniting factor? I don't know who remembers this moment. It's not about football, it's about rugby. It's one of the most fantastic moments in sports. I worked for Nike for many years. And Nike was the sponsor of the South African Springboks, the rugby team in South Africa. And we got a request to ship 30 shirts, size large, with number 6 on the back, to South Africa, Pretoria. And the next thing we know is that Mandela, during the entire time, the 3-week time of the World Rugby Cup being held in South Africa, every single day wore the Springbok shirt. And it didn't matter whether he went to church, or whether some foreign dignitary showed up, or whether he had to address Parliament. Whatever he was doing, that's the shirt he was wearing. Why number 6? South Africa, rugby is very much a white men's sport in Africa, in South Africa. The whitest of people on the Springbok team was Francois Pienaar, number 6. And against every single probability and prognosis, South Africa came into the final. And it was behind, you know, close to the end of the match. The one black guy on the team scored the try. South Africa won. And this guy, Mr. Mandela, you know, so he walks on the field with this cup, you know, great big thing. Smile as big as that cup is wide. And he goes up to Pinar, and as this is being, you know, watched by 7 billion people around the world on every television station known to men, he says, sorry? Mr. Pinar, thank you for what you've done for our country. And Mr. Pinar looks at this thing and says, fantastic. And he turns around and he says, Mr. Pinar, or Mr. President, it pales in comparison to what you've done for our country. And gives this thing back. An unbelievable example of the power of sports. And I am going the wrong way with this thing. Please give me 2 seconds. Because I want to give you another example. Another example, more closely related to football, is about a player who was banned from football. And he was banned from football because he couldn't stand the comments coming from the stands, from the public. And those guys, people in the stands, they were insulting his teammates. So he went into the stands and he attacked the public, the people, the guys in the public. And that thing sparked a whole movement in sports. It sparked a movement among players. And some brands wanted to say that. It was actually the players who wanted to say it, and the brand facilitated it.
Stand up. Speak up.
What commercial? We're here in Holland. You know the color of the Dutch national team, right? One time, they played in a black and white shirt. And that was on Wembley. And that was to kick off that campaign. And it's pretty cool. So the power of sports is pretty amazing. So will it unite or will it divide? I don't know. All I know is that, hey, diversity is going to be increasing. We also know that a difference isn't an advantage. And we also know that sports, that football has emotional power in it. And so I think, yeah, it has the potential to unite. What does it take? That's what Hyper's going to tell you.